champions.
Swinging a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup. The Flyers win the Stanley Cup.
For the lead. Yes! Iverson, wow, what a fake off Daniels as he broke his ankles and got all the way to the cup.
What is up? We are back for episode 70 of Drunk on Broad. And I got Joe in the house tonight. So Joe, welcome back. We're gonna get drunk on some baseball, talk a little Sixers. How you been, man? What's going on? What's new?
I've been good, man. Just living the dream, man. You know, trying to survive one day at a time. Especially in this Philadelphia sports world that seems to change daily, hourly, by the second. So,
Truly.
you know, there's a lot to go over, and you know, with the Phils, and you know, you got free agency start tomorrow with basketball in the NBA. There's a lot of stuff floating out there.
Yeah.
Whether it's true or not, we'll see,
the
man.
bombs have been busy.
Yes, they have.
Dropping bombs over Baghdad.
That's right.
He's got his I'm sure between him and Shams they're gonna be pretty busy. I'm sure Shams has got he's gonna have the Clutch Sports angle of all the moves going on. So he's got them. Oh my God, it's so frustrating.
It is.
But listen, let's the sponsors are scrolling across the bottom. Go check those out in the link tree in the bio. But Joe, let's get right into it. Talk a little bit. Talk to me about the Phils. They've kind of cooled off after that 15-2 stretch, and then the news hits over the weekend, late night, about Harper. We can't have nice things. It was just about to turn a corner, and then we find out, and then later in the week, we find out the even worse news is that it's going to be longer than anticipated. He has the operation this week, 6 to 8 weeks. Talk to me where you are on the Phils.
I haven't decided on what part of the roller coaster I'm on, but it's just a matter of time before you go up or you go down.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I fell asleep for that game because it had been a long week with work and whatnot. But waking up, hearing that, I'm like, I wonder if the Phils pulled it out last night. I wake up, I see the score, and then I see that. It's like, talk about typical Philly situation where something starts to go good, and then bam, that gut punch that that we all know way too well. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough sledding going forward. You're going to need these guys that they signed to step up. I mean, Schwarber's been fantastic. Let's
pause on that one for a second. Schwarber has been incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, the month of June that he's having is beyond impressive. He's got, and I don't want to misquote the numbers here, but he's got some. Let me give it. Hold on.
22 and 47 or 48.
I mean, slugging percentage is
outrageous. Yeah,
like the 22 home runs, just an incredible performance in terms of really being able to carry this team throughout that month of June, and coming up in clutch spots, getting clutch hits. Kind of has picked up the slack where Castellanos has kind of fallen off a little bit.
Yeah. Castellanos has. I don't really know what's going on with him. He it was like kind of the opposite with Castellanos and Schwarber. It was Castellanos came out hot. He popped a few home runs. He had the batting, I guess, over 300, and he seemed to be rolling.
Right.
And now God, I can't even remember the last time he hit a home run. I think it's been probably a month, if I had to guess. But it's we need him. We need him to be better. And if we're gonna stay afloat and be able to contend for a playoff spot if and when Harper comes back, he's going to have to be a huge part of that. And that's one of the big question marks. It's him. It's Real Muto. Moniak's coming back from injury, but it's like, how long do you wait? For a guy like that to come around. But we're basing that off of what he did in spring training. He didn't do that last year.
No.
So what are we really basing that off of? It's
and even Joe, I mean, even outside of Harper, they still have a team that could be contenders in a playoff game, right?
Absolutely.
Like when you look at a lineup with Hoskins and Castellanos and Real Muto and Schwarber, like those are 4 legit MLB power hitters that should be able to carry the Matt Beerlings and the Mickey Moniaks of the world. And even in a sense where this will now allow them to go back to using the DH in a way that they really intended to use it earlier on in the year, where it was like this rotating piece. Listen, thankfully, that DH rule was in place because you had that opportunity to be able to not have to put Harper on the shelf for what would have probably been, 3/4 to maybe the whole season.
Sure.
If he ends up, because if he's not able to DH, then he's getting that surgery, a couple months ago, and is probably on the mend for most, if not all, the season. So I'm looking at them and I'm saying I need those guys to do more, right? I need Bryson Stott to do more. I need Mickey Moniak to do more. And I think that the move to bring in Oscar Mercado, right? That's not a shades of I know there's been a lot of conversation around the Braves and how the Braves handled that injury with Ronald Acuna last year, and how they went out and they got that, and they got 3 guys to fill that one role on their lineup. I just don't think that the Phillies have the farm system to be able to make those moves.
Agreed.
So that's going to have to happen internally, right? You're going to need Castellanos to produce like he produced when he was in his heyday in Detroit and Cincinnati. You're gonna need Schwarber to. I don't know how long this hot streak can continue on, but you're going to need him to continue on for the better part of July and August.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And every time we talk about the Phillies, we always go back to, how they're it's just a full lineup of streaky hitters. Here we are staring at July. And your best player's out probably until I don't know, the end of August, beginning of September. So with the way that this team is constructed and the way that this roller coaster goes with, the hot and cold streaks from all of these players, it's going to be they're going to have to do it where they can, balance out enough wins to still be there, if and when Harper comes back. And I think, if for some reason he doesn't come back at all, I unfortunately don't think I don't think that they'll be able to overcome that.
Like where they end up sitting right now, like they have themselves, like they have to be at that point. They have to be within, I don't know, what is a reasonable expectation for where they have to be in order to say they like, is it one and a half? Is it a series? Like, is it reasonable to say like they need to be within 3 games of whoever they're in front of?
When Harper comes back?
Yeah.
Uh,
Like, is that reasonable to say?
maybe. Yeah. I mean, maybe 2 series. Like I said, it really depends on how he heals, how quickly he heals, and how game ready he is when he comes back. You
Right.
know, he could be healthy and he could be swinging the bat, but you know, he's going to miss all of that training, all of that time, all of that hand-eye coordination.
And it's his
Yeah,
thumb too.
and it's
Right.
his
So
thumb. So right,
that's all the back grip. That's all the everything that he bases everything that's on is all in the hands.
yeah,
Right. And to speak to Adam's point, right, Nola has stepped up, right? Nola has just been in a position where he hasn't gotten run support.
yeah,
Wheeler's been good. The bullpen has been pretty good. Like their pitching staff, especially through that 15 win, that 15-2 stretch, they had put together a whole series of solid performances. I think at one point they won like 5 out of 6 series.
yeah.
Even going into this Braves series, which is a huge series right now. But
It is.
like their pitching staff, it's made me really rethink like what kind of pitching stuff do they actually need? Right? Do they need somebody in the middle of that rotation that kind of that bumps like a guy that's pitching tonight, like Suarez, that bumps him to be like the long man, maybe come in the middle of the game kind of rotation, like that, like a bullpen piece. I think I like what I've seen from the pitching over the last month and a half.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, Nola's been very good. You know, he had a couple hiccups earlier in the season, but he's really settled in. Wheeler the same. I think Wheeler was good last night. He wasn't great, but he settled down later in the game. But I mean, this team was built to win by the offense.
Yeah,
built to win by the offense. The pitching has been good enough for them to win games, and
true.
The bats just haven't come up. They've come up small, and they come up really small. When they have runners in scoring position.
And
this
that's something I wanted to talk
killer.
about.
Killer.
And Joe, I know I might have to give you the Drunk on Broad account at some point to let you live tweet during the games, because some of those games you're super active on the social media.
Yeah.
But that part has been the most frustrating part about these last couple games, right? That you get the guys on base, and then you're not following through on getting them home, right? Leaving those guys. I can't think of how many times that I'm sitting there going, they got guys on second and third. They got the bases loaded. Right? A couple of times they get the bases loaded with 1 out. They got guys in runners in scoring position with less than 2 outs, no outs, 1 out, and they're getting no runs. And that to me is like, okay, but this is why you have that lineup. You have that lineup so that when guys get on base, there's guys sprinkled all throughout that lineup, even without Harper, that can still get guys that can still put runs together. And I think the sooner that they can start putting those crooked numbers on the board, right? Not being these 1-run games, not being games where they're getting shut out or they're only scoring 1 run, the more you're going to see that like this offense needs to be more consistent and less hit and miss. But it's built as a hit and miss lineup. So it's like it's this weird dichotomy of
It's true. I mean, they're they're almost like trying to reinvent themselves,
Truly.
game to game. And the whole thing with analytics and it's all about the numbers and hitting, swinging for the fences. It's
Right.
I'm an old school baseball fan, and when you're having an issue and it's the sixth inning or the seventh inning and you need some runs, like I have no problem putting down a bunt, or these guys are doing the shift. Like, why can't these guys just learn how to hit the ball the other way? You haven't scored most of the game. You got a couple hits here and there. You got no runs, or you got 1 run or 2 runs, and you're down a run or you're down 2 runs. Why don't you just hit the guy over?
Yeah.
Get on base.
But just put the ball in play.
Exactly.
That's the part, right? Like, because and we've talked about it a bunch, but like, you put the ball in play, they got to do 3 things, right? They got to field the ball, they got to throw the ball, and the guy's got to catch the ball, right? All 3 of those opportunities, we've seen plays. Look no further than like when they played the Dodgers a couple of series ago at home, right? And the play to Trey Turner at second base, right? In the 9th inning, in a game where you have a guy on and all you do is put the ball in play, and a guy who's insanely reliable in the field boots the ball, right? Yep. Guy ends up scoring. They win the game in extra innings. Just things like that, where like the swing and miss strikeouts are what's killing this team, because you're giving the other team outs without having to have them do the necessary things to do, which is put the ball in play.
Yeah. Go back to a guy like, Mickey Moniak, who, I mean, he's got to be pressing. You
can tell he's doing. I saw him tonight doing this thing where, like, as soon as the pitch came out of his hands, he's doing this thing where he's lifting the bat up.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's almost like he's anticipating that the ball is going to be like high and tight, so he like lifts the bat up. And I'm like, part of me wants to just be like, all right, what is your thought process there? Right? Because it's almost like it's not instinctual. It's almost like out of habit, where if he's pressing and he's anticipating everything high and tight and someone trying to push him back off the plate, but then someone throws him a backdoor curveball, right? And he's swinging him. He's either swinging and missing or he's looking.
Yeah.
It's just, he's the guy that, like, you don't need a ton of production from, right? You just need him to be a functional hitter and a guy that gets on base.
Yeah. It's disheartening, because this is, what are we in, year 6 with him?
Jesus Christ.
Year 6, number 1 overall pick. Sometimes you just got to say, I don't know. I don't know what to say. He's, I don't know. How long do you give him? I guess you give him the rest of the season to try to battle through it. I don't know. I mean, but you said, he doesn't even seem functional when he comes up to the plate. I really have he hasn't really shown me anything since he's been back to make me think that he's going to be taking a step forward.
Now, and the hard part is that the glimpses that you saw in spring training, right? You saw a guy that was not just a functional hitter, like a guy who was getting on base, who was hitting the ball to all fields, and then he gets that injury, and he just doesn't look. At least Joe, at this point, he looks like a baseball player. Like, when he got drafted,
right? Yeah, he's tiny.
He was tiny, man.
He looked like Garrett Stubbs.
Oh my god! Wow. I mean, he did that.
Sorry, Garrett.
No, but like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's hard to think that, like, you drafted him number 1 overall in 2016. He's 24 years old, so he's not old. But like, how much longer do you wait? Hard part is that we're not looking at a farm system like the Braves where you can just bring up the next
A
guy.
tree, yeah.
Right? You're not looking at like teams like the Pirates that are bringing up kids like O'Neal Cruz.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have that pipeline of guys in your farm system that you can just bring up, which is super frustrating.
Yeah, agreed.
So go ahead.
What do you do? Who do you move and who do you move them for? And it's, we don't really have any wiggle room with players that could be made available. I mean, we really need all hands on deck to to cover up those injuries. You miss Segura, even Maton, his little stint up here.
Yeah.
He was doing really well, and then he had that fluke injury, and they were like, "Oh, he'll be out maybe about 10 days." Well, I don't. What was that? 20? I think it's been at least 20 now.
I think we got the Flyers health protocol staff on that one.
Yeah, upper body, lower body. Get out of here. Whatever the heck that means.
Joe, I'm going to throw a couple names at you, guys that aren't like I was listening to Jay. Jay was on with Fired Up last night, and I was listening to him talk about they're talking about not having the firepower to be able to get superstars, right? Which I don't think they have. So that prompted me today to kind of look into. I'm going to throw some names of guys, and I want you to tell me where you're at on some of them. And they're not going to be guys that are going to be, superstar, but guys that can come in and that are contributing major league, players. Guy I want to start with is a guy from the Royals, Benintendi, Andrew Benintendi, right? A left-handed bat is a guy that has an expiring contract, so he would be a pseudo rental, but a guy that could play multiple outfield positions for you, hit at the top end, beginning, middle of the lineup. What are your thoughts on him?
I think it would be great. I mean, he's young. He's a winner. He won the World Series with Boston, I believe.
Correct.
When Dombrowski was up there. But
so there's a connection there too.
Yeah, there's that familiarity, and I mean this year he's playing at an all-star level, in Kansas City. So absolutely, I would be in on a player like that. You start drifting back to financially. I mean, Middleton's went over the tax this year. So what is his plan at the deadline? Is that a deadline move? Is that a move that they would wait until after the season to try to pull off? But I mean, he's young, he's talented, he's successful, he's a winner. I mean, it's not like you have those guys like we just talked about coming up through the ranks. It's
right.
There's you got this Derek Hall guy up tonight for the Phillies, and to be honest with you, I never even heard of the guy. So I didn't even know he was right.
Not before I saw it on Twitter today.
No, and I didn't even know that he was doing that well. But it's this influx of success and failure with this team when you can call up a guy like Derek Hall, but then your number one pick can't hit from 6 years ago. Your number one pick from 6 years ago still can't hit the ball.
He's the equivalent of like your 4A player, right?
Yeah.
Just not good enough to be successful at the MLB level, more than successful at the AAA level, but stuck driving the PA Turnpike between Lehigh Valley and CBP.
Yeah.
All right. So what about a guy like Joe Adell from the Angels? A guy who, Joe Adell is a guy who is kind of in that same position and might need like he's like a change of scenery guy. So he's 23, young guy, but a guy who's been up and down with the Angels. At one point was like considered like the 2017 MLB top prospect. But is batting 207, has 10 home runs, 42 RBIs. So like a decent player, but like going up and down between AAA and just thinking of guys that like maybe need a change of scenery, maybe need to get out of, but he's in that like just good enough to be functional at the MLB level, but too good to be stuck at the AAA level.
Right.
So he's a guy that you might be able to get for, I won't say a bag of balls, but like you might not have to, you can kind of buy low and maybe sell high on him.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I would almost take a stab at anybody. I mean, it's you never know. Yeah, the change of scenery might do him some good, but he might wind up being the same kind of player here. So, it's I guess it would be a shot in the dark. But I mean, like I said, I wouldn't be opposed to just about anything at this point. You have Vierling, who seems like he's starting to come around, which I'm sure I put a plenty of negative comments about him earlier in the season on Twitter. But he seemed to dig himself out of a hole. But how long is that going to last? When you're in a lineup with all these players that are streaky hitters, is that how he's going to end up? It's we don't know. We don't know. We have to really see how it all plays out. But and you can never have enough guys coming off the bench either. Our bench is not great. Last night I think Thompson made a big mistake by not putting in. I think I would have pinch hit Vierling there later in the game rather than let Moniak bat later in the game.
Yeah, I mean, with the way that Moniak has been struggling, it might not be a bad idea to then put him in there. Pitching wise, anybody that you see pitching wise that do you think they go more starter, more relief?
I mean, I would probably go starter. I think you have to. I think at some point, and I hope it's sooner than later, they got to say, "Look, Sir Anthony, you're the closer."
I'm with you.
And ride with it. Ride with it.
I'm with you on that.
Give him the ball. You're doing the ninth inning. You're the guy for the rest of the year, unless the rails completely fall off, which I can't see happening because I think that's his element. I think that's what he's built for with, the kind of pitching that he can offer and does offer. I think that's right up his alley. So I think you ride with the whole closer thing with him, and then you kind of piece together the other innings. Like I hope we'll never see Familia again, but what are the chances of him not being part of the mix? I think he's too inconsistent. I think he's just done. He looks kind of lost out there. I think he's kind of run his course. I mean, he's got to be pushing 50. He's got to be pushing 50 by now. So I think he's.
You don't know who was typing in those dates on the birth certificate.
Yeah, I don't think that's accurate. But I think for me, the question mark is, the starting rotation, because what is up with Eflin? What is going on with Eflin? He's okay. He's not okay. He's not 100%. Oh, he's had some issues with the knee. We're gonna put him on the 15-day. That kind of thing, when you're talking about a knee, that's kind of scary.
To me, that it's that yo-yo of like, is he okay? Not okay? Are we gonna be playing this yo-yo the whole rest of the season? He's gonna be on the 15-day DL. He's gonna come back. Is he then gonna go back? Go on the DL? his thing that has always stuck with him has always been consistency, right?
Yeah.
He's just a guy who has shown flashes of being productive, but has also intermixed those with times where he's been just not good. And what about a guy like Kyle Hendricks from the Cubs? I mean, his ERA is in the it's pushing 5, which doesn't help his trade value, but he's a guy who has been a productive starter at the major league level. Could be a guy that you could get for like middling to, maybe back end prospects. Again, I think at this point, any arm that they can have, that they can add, is going to make that can make that rotation better, is going to help. Absolutely.
And he's a good quality veteran, who has won at the major league level, and right. he's a professional, and he's had success in the league. So, and he's been, like I said, he's been battle tested. So I think I'd rather ride with a guy like that than a one-legged Eflin, or, like even Suarez, who's up and down, has been up and down all year as well. And, he's young. So what's that going to be like for him? If we're, coming down to the end of the season, and we got to win a couple games to get into the dance. It's going to be a tough go. I'd rather go with a guy who has a track record and who can rise up in those moments.
Joe, anything else you want to touch base on with the Phils? I mean, they got this series with the Braves. They're gonna.
Yeah, I did notice this, and I think I saw it on Philly Voice. It's nothing crazy or nothing really that big of a deal, but why would they give out Cole Hamels' number to some guy who just came into this organization?
Wow!
Did you see that? Mercado. They gave Mercado Cole Hamels' number.
God, you know what's crazy, Joe, is that when they put his number up there, it didn't
click with me either. Yep.
It didn't dawn on me because he had the couple of stops after Philly where, wow.
Yeah.
And that's a guy who was like your rock in the middle of that rotation.
Oh, yeah.
In that World Series run.
Yeah.
So, and a guy who at some point is probably going to end up on your wall of fame out in Ashburn Alley.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
For a guy that you picked up off the scrap heap from the Cleveland Guardians.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, you want Cole Hamels' number? Sure, go ahead.
And you know what? I wonder how that went down. I wonder if if the clubhouse guy, like if it was like a clubhouse guy who was like, "Oh, what number do you want?" "Oh, no one's wearing 35. I'll take that one." And the kid was like, "Sure, here's 35." And then it's like, "Oh shit.
Oh my God.
What are we gonna wow."
Yeah.
Listen, I don't know if Oscar Mercado is gonna be here long enough to rewrite the history books of number 35. And I don't think anyone's going out to have their Cole Hamels jerseys restitched.
No. No.
Not like all of us were doing
with our Wentz,
with our Wentz jerseys.
It's a work in progress.
Oh, Joe,
did you get yours?
I did. So I got a shout out to a group called Tillworks.
Yeah. Okay.
And they put it up there. I ordered it. It would cost me $25. They sent it to me. Took it over to Mama Duke's over at when we went over to visit my parents. Mom threw it through the sewing machine. That brown on the back of that 11 jersey. Looks super sweet.
That's awesome.
So
I'm doing the same.
They're not our sponsor, but
no, yeah. I'll have to check them out. And through the whole pandemic and all that, my wife started sewing too. She was making masks. She was doing.
Ooh,
Oh
okay.
yeah, she could sew. So you better believe wherever I get my name stitch from, she's gonna be doing that.
When we pop off tonight, I'll send you the link because
Okay.
it was 20.
25, I think.
I think it was $25.
looked it up. I've done a lot of Googling on where to get them.
Well, and what was hard for me was trying to find a place that didn't look Bobo. Because there were a couple of people that I saw. I saw some guy, God bless him, but he ordered a Hassan Reddick jersey and he was super excited about it. No. And the name, the jersey, the number, all that looked great. The nameplate, like some of the letters were like super thin, some of them were really thick. And I felt so bad.
Oh, that's terrible.
Because he was like super excited. He's like, and he tags Hassan Reddick in. He's like super excited to wear your jersey at the link this fall.
Yeah.
And he got roasted. Because the jersey, like it was obvious that like you bought the Bobo jersey.
Yeah. You stick out. Oh yeah.
And you got to kind of know that those things are kind of hit and miss.
Yep.
So, but I will be wearing that number 11 jersey that's going back in the rotation. That one got relegated to the attic for a couple years.
Yep.
I couldn't keep it in the closet.
No, absolutely. You didn't want to touch it. You don't want to look at it.
It had a lot of funk on it. And I did the same thing with the Simmons jersey is it got relegated to the same spot.
Good.
Well, speaking of Simmons, fuck Ben Simmons.
Who?
Right? 2-5.
He's a professional. He's a professional. He's a fisherman. Yeah, he's got to be great. He's trying to work out that back. He's trying to work that back out that pole.
Some great some pole exercises.
Can't make this stuff up, man.
For a guy who just had herniated disc surgery, or whatever the hell you had, man.
Yeah, sure. Deep sea fishing. Nah, that won't bother it.
No, not at all. So listen, Joe, to kind of switch gears and talk about the Sixers for a little bit, right? The news comes out this afternoon that Harden's going to decline the option, but has all intentions of opting in at a lower rate for maybe a longer whether it's a 2 or 3 year deal, but for over the course will be less money per year, which gives them the flexibility to be able to bring in some bench pieces, which I think are going to help tremendously. So right now, Joe, you look at Maxey, Harden, Embiid, Toby. Who's playing the three for you? Like, is it Thibault? Is it Niang? Is it PJ Tucker? Is it so? Because the PJ Tucker thing is the other thing that's kind of
set in stone. Yeah,
it's
pretty much set in stone.
Everything but the official word.
You're right. I think as a starter, I'm going with Tucker. I guess Niang's only here because he's under contract. Thibault's in the same situation, but Thibault's not a starter.
He lost a ton of shine.
He did.
And I think their plans for him were always to be that prototypical 3-and-D guy. And he's got the defensive end. He has that pretty much locked down, except for some moments, right? He had some moments late in those two series against Toronto and Miami where he looked kind of pedestrian on both ends of the floor. I just don't know what his role is. I don't know if he's like another guy who just needs a change of scenery. I don't know, because that offensive end of his game never evolved.
Agreed. And it's not that he tries, but you can tell that it doesn't come natural to him.
No.
he's in and around the basket. You know, when Harden's on his game, he's getting everybody involved, and he's zipping passes and he's looking for the cutter, and he wants a guy who's athletic, who has a wing that can get easy buckets. And
Right.
we saw him do it maybe a handful of times, but it's not something that he can do it doesn't look like it's something he can do on an every game basis.
All right. So if PJ Tucker is the guy that you slide into 3, right? They're now a little smaller, right? But a little tougher to start the game off, which could be helpful. Now, the guy that they pick up in the draft, right? They swap that pick and Danny Green, which essentially is nothing, right? You traded an expiring contract and the 23rd pick, which in the NBA really means almost absolutely nothing. And you pick up DeAnthony Melton, right? Who is 24, who is kind of like your Swiss Army knife guy that can do a little bit on both ends, super athletic, which is something that this team needs drastically.
Yes.
I mean, to me, I don't see the downside in swapping that pick and that player, because you're essentially getting a younger, more athletic version of Danny Green.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Yeah, I mean, when the NBA draft is so boom or bust. In the first round, it's really a lot of these guys that do pan out. It's like top 10, top 15, and then after that, it's these guys fall off a cliff. We got really lucky with a guy like Maxey. Maxey fell that far, but you trade that pick out, and you're already getting a proven commodity, young, and has already had success at the NBA level. And he's a Morey guy. He connected He connected dots back to Houston. I believe he drafted him in Houston.
Yeah.
So, he's a guy who can come off the bench, and I would even start the guy just because he could shoot the ball and he can play defense, and he's got crazy athleticism. And like you said, that's something that this team has been missing. So I love the move. Because he's young and he's already shown that he's had success at this level, and sky's the limit for that for him.
Now, they still have to add a couple of bench pieces. They still need to add the backup big guy. I know
Drummond.
Listen, Drummond is a guy that should be on their radar.
He was wearing a Phillies hat.
I saw that in the Twitterverse. But I think he's a guy that, if he has the option of going and being a starter and getting starter minutes, I think he's at the point in his career where he knows he can play starter minutes. I think you saw that when he went to Brooklyn and they slotted him right in that role. You're going to need a guy that's going to be able to carry the weight of being on the floor for a pile of minutes when Embiid's not, when he's not playing. But a couple of guys that I saw today, did you see the Kings are going to probably move on from Dante DiVincenzo?
I did see that, yes.
Which, is going to make him an unrestricted free agent.
Mm-hmm.
They're already over the luxury tax. That could be a guy who's again a younger, athletic wing guy who can knock down a three.
Yep.
Guy like Patty Mills, right?
Mm-hmm.
His option got declined by the Brooklyn Nets. Those are all guys that I think could be in the mix for them. I don't want to see them like guys like Eric Gordon, guys like Otto Porter. I know that they're productive NBA players, I just worry that it makes you old.
Right. Yeah, you have to get younger. You have to get more athletic, because one of the downsides of this team last year was, rebounding and transition defense was a killer for them in certain games. So, you have to be able to fill out your bench, but you have to be able to, add pieces that are actually going to make a difference. Some of these guys, they didn't even play. They didn't even step on the court. They didn't even use Millsap. They barely used Korkmaz. Isaiah Joe was a spotty shooter.
Here's
you need
where I'm at on
guys.
those guys. Like, I need those guys to eat, like, in the same position we were talking about with some of those Phillies guys, right? That those guys need to be guys that it's time to either put up or shut up,
Right.
Like but do you trust a guy like Charles Bassey or Paul Reed to be that bench piece? Can they be that bench piece? We don't know unless we put them in. But you got a window here, for Embiid.
It's closing.
That's. I mean, I think on the generous end, we're talking about 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know.
I think it's less.
Hard.
I think it's less
You
than
think
5.
it's less?
I think it's less than 5. I mean, he's a big man, and that body is just, all it is getting older. And how many injuries did he have, toward the end of the season? It was, he should have been the MVP. He absolutely should have been the MVP.
Yeah.
But the problem is he's breaking down. He's been
and it's so hard because the injuries that he's sustaining are not like breakdown injuries. They're just kind of injuries as part of the game, but they're still injuries.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know.
It's tough.
It is hard because you want to be able to say, hey, listen, we're already over the luxury tax. Let's just surround this guy with with as much athleticism as we can, because we know where that game is going, right? You saw Boston and you saw Golden State. They're not playing the game around a big guy. They're playing a game again. They got 5 athletic guys that are on the court all at the same time. Any interest in a guy like Cam Reddish? Because he's a guy that the Knicks might move on from, a guy that might not be super uberly expensive.
He's a local guy. He's a local guy. Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely, man.
He's got that Norristown right across the forearm.
Yeah. I think, you play a guy. Look, if we're doing comparisons here, Cam Reddish is going to be on the court over a guy like Korkmaz.
Oh God. 10 out of 10 days.
But that's the problem. Like, why are they still here if you're talking about a guy like Reddish and you're talking about a guy like Korkmaz, and they're like light years apart? What does that say about Korkmaz?
Right. And what does that say about your player development?
That
you waited for this guy to come internationally. And they did the same thing kind of happened with Sarge way back in the process, right? We waited 2 years for that contract to convey before he came over and played. And then he was kind of as advertised, but not nearly as productive as was portrayed to us by the Sixers. So
right.
I don't know. I think, that is the frustrating piece, right? The frustrating piece is that you see guys that are fringe guys, but fringe guys that are uberly productive more than the guys that are on the roster. Guys like, I don't know, All right, so I'm gonna Gary Harris, Kent Bazemore, right? Brent Forbes, DeLon Wright, right? Those are all guys that they're bench pieces. But they're guys that I think, all things considered, you could come in and probably count on them to be better than what you have.
Absolutely, because you know our bench last year, regular season and playoffs, was one of the worst in the league. You know, and we were a playoff team, and we had one of the worst benches in the league. So, obviously the starters were tired. I mean, and they kind of ran out of gas. I mean, you got a guy like Harden you could see it. You could see it. He's not built to play 40 plus minutes a night. It's not fair to the starters to have the kind of bench that Morey assembled. He make that move, and then you don't really do enough to help that bench. It was a failure waiting to happen, really. But
I think in order for this season to be successful, who's the one guy that you're looking at to say, like, this season if this season is going to be putting them in the upper echelon conversation to be contenders in the Eastern Conference, which we know they are, what's the guy that puts them in the conversation to be in the Eastern Conference Finals this time, next summer?
Well, obviously, I mean, your big three or four, depending on who's still here after tomorrow or after this off season. I think it's Maxey. I think it's Tyrese. I mean, you need him to maintain that level, and then you need him to do it every game, because he's shown that he can do it. He's shown that he can do it almost all of the time, but he needs to be able to do that, maintain that level, the regular season, the first round of the playoffs, the second round of the playoffs. No, he doesn't seem like the kind of guy that is really going to let the moment get to him, but he has to be able to maintain that level of play for them to win a championship. Because he's going to have to, use his energy, use his skill, and use his shooting ability, because what are we going to get next year with Harden? How's he going to be in the regular season? How's he going to be in the postseason? What are we going to get from him? He's going to take less money and sign a short-term deal, but is that going to translate to him being more successful on the court? Is that going to translate to him being, wanting to be in that moment to help get this team over the top in the playoffs? Because, I mean, from what I've seen with Harden, he seems like he's already content with where he's at in his NBA career.
I agree. I think that this is Simmons being out last year was an opportunity for you to see him step up. I think the guy that I'm looking at, Joe, is Harden. Right? If this season is going to be a success, you're going to need James Harden to be what Chris Paul was for the Suns.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're going to need to see the evolution of his game, be the energy facilitator, get everybody to be able to function in space. That's the guy that I'm looking at, right? Because if he's better and he can facilitate and he can get the ball anywhere he wants on the floor, right, that makes everybody else better, right? That puts Maxey in space to be able to blow by guys. That puts Embiid in a position where he can get a guy in a low block. It puts whoever the shooters are around the outside. It gives them, he's able to dribble drive and kick it out to a guy that's going to be in space, because he's going to attract to defenders.
Yeah.
I think he's got to be that. You're going to have to see the evolution of that guy. So
agreed. You know, just to piggyback off what you're saying now, it's what do they is that what they want him to be? Do they want him to be a facilitator, or do they want him to be a scorer? And at this point in his career, can he do a little bit of both, depending on how the game's going, the matchups, you know, that they're going to be facing in these playoff series? Was he still playing hurt this year? Do we even know? Do we even know? Is it a mentality? Is he is slowing down, but is that something that he can? Is it conditioning? Is it something that he can? I mean, I've seen videos of him doing whatever kind of workout now, and they're saying that he doesn't typically do that. So maybe he's real. Maybe the light's going off, and he's realizing that, you know, time is of the essence. You know, if this team tanks this year, I think everybody's on the table for a possible move.
Listen,
I hate to say that.
Joe, I can't even, like, mentally, I can't get there.
Yeah,
I can't. For my own sanity and the sanity of everyone around me, I can't get to that place where I look at this team going back to purgatory, because that's where you live, right? Before this team was in the process, right? That those Andre Iguodala led Sixers teams that were perennial 6, 7, 8, you know, always on the fringe of contending, or, you know, they're on the fringe of contending for the playoffs, or they're on the fringe end of the outside of the lottery, right?
Yeah.
But they were never on one end or the other, which is why they had to go and, you know, get guys like Isaiah Cannon and Ish Smith and all those other process guys, because you didn't have the opportunity to be able to get and develop the top end talent or acquire guys because you were a contender and you needed guys to glom on. I think the one thing that scares me, though, Joe, is that you're not seeing a lot of, like, I think the thing that you're not seeing a lot of guys that see Philly as an opportunity to go win a ring. Yeah. Right? Like, you see PJ Tucker, who won one with the Bucks, was on a contender last year with Miami, but you don't see a lot of other guys where they're like, I'm dying to play with Joel Embiid. I'm dying to go play with the Sixers. Like, there's not a DMV line of guys standing outside the Wells Fargo saying, you know, how do I sign up and play with these guys? So that's the one thing that I'm like, all right, is there something going on around the league that I don't know that's saying I got better opportunities in other places? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you see a guy like in this the rumors with Tucker probably coming on board here in Philly, but, you know, he's 37. He's already won he's already gotten his ring. And they're about to probably pay him more than he's made in his career over, you know, a 3-year span. So, and then I think he's kind of friendly or buddy with James Harden. So I'm sure that might have something to do with him, you know, coming here. So
it might, Joe. The one thing that PJ Tucker might give them that they don't have is they might give them that edge that they had with Jimmy Butler, right? Because the last guy that came in and kind of threw his nuts on the table and just said, like, "This is it. This is me. Like, I don't care who I offend," was Jimmy Butler.
Yep.
And PJ Tucker seems like a guy that, you know, in at least in all things that you see on the court, appears to be that guy. A guy that's going to get in your face, a guy that's going to be uberly productive on the boards. He's going to play both ends of the court. So, I don't have a fear that I'm not going to get my money's worth of PJ Tucker.
Right.
So
you know what you're getting. Yeah, you know what you're getting with a guy like that. And then there's a couple other names floating out there too that I happen to see in passing, but I guess it's really going to come down to what their financial situation is going to be like once Harden signs his deal, and then we'll see what kind of money's left over. And then after they sign Tucker, Kemba Walker might become available as a buyout.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, Oladipo apparently isn't sticking around in Miami, so I think if you could add either one of those guys, your bench instantly is better.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you have an injury, or if you need to insert them into the starting lineup, plug and play.
Correct. I'm with you. Listen, those guys instantly make that second group insanely better than anything that they had. And I think what you said is great in terms of it slots those guys to be able to give guys nights off, or if guys are injured, those D'Anthony Meltons, those guys can step in and fill in those roles.
Load management piece.
There you go. Joe, anything else you want to talk about before we roll into final thoughts?
I don't know. What's that Philly score?
Oh,
do I want to look? Do you know?
4-1, bottom of the eighth.
I was hoping you didn't know.
I know. I'm sorry. Sorry.
I guess we're on the downslope right now of the roller coaster, right?
Listen, I'm hoping there's like a upside down corkscrew coming through that just kind of throws our summer into a world of excitement. So, not being a roller coaster guy, I'm looking for the upside down corkscrew, loop-de-loop, something that ends in a safe landing into a red October.
Who two things, Don.
Sure.
What Sixer do you see possibly getting traded, and what Philly do you see possibly getting traded?
All right, so I saw somebody floated out. I think it was Scotty from DSM. The idea that Toby could be a match for the Kings in Sacramento, right? That you could get, and he and I went back and forth a little bit. He suggested a package somewhere, in the neighborhood of like Scotty Barnes, maybe Scotty Barnes and another bench piece. I don't know what you can get for Tobias, considering what his contract is.
Right.
You might have to take on some of that salary to be able to unload him.
Yeah.
So, if I'm looking, because to me, Joe, there's no real other marketable asset, right? You can't, even if the money works out, right? You can't flip, Paul Reed, Isaiah Joe, and Korkmaz and turn them into
Damian Lillard.
Right. You could put those three guys with the whole Blue Coats team, right? Make the money work. But I don't think that there's anybody else on this roster that, one, that you would be willing to get rid of, and two, that other people want. I think Toby is a guy that other teams could want, maybe just not at that price tag.
At that number, right? Yeah.
So I just don't know what you're going to get back, right? You're going to get back, if you get back Harrison Barnes, right? You're getting back a guy who's a productive wing that can score, but also has a crappy contract too. So,
yeah,
who knows? Phillies. If they want to get a top end of the rotation guy that they can have control over for the next couple of years, and that could be productive for them? Do they move on from a guy like Reese Hoskins?
Yeah, that was on the tip of my tongue because
Hoskins is a guy that
is this his last? He didn't re-sign him yet, right?
I don't know.
Is he like on a lame duck? I think this technically would be his last year. It's kind of like he's playing for a new deal.
He's getting paid $7.7 million this year. He avoided arbitration, but he signed a 1-year 7.7. So yeah, it's a lame duck. It's a lame duck year for him.
Yeah.
So could potentially be a guy that, for them, I think it's going to depend on what kind of value do they get back. I think the Harper injury doesn't help that though.
It's true.
Because I don't think they can afford to lose another bat.
Yep.
And get pitching back, which would help your rotation. But I don't think that they're going to be willing to lose another bat. I think if they're going to move anybody, it's going to be on the fringes of trying to fill center field, which they've been trying to fill since Victorino.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, they really haven't had a center fielder since that World Series team.
Well, hey, Mercado could come out of nowhere, man, and really just
pseudo Cole Hamels, right?
But I'll tell you what, they need to get that worked out. They need to get that figured out. He should not be trotting on that field wearing that number.
No, I agree. Joe, what do you got? Let's roll on the final thoughts. What do you got?
Final thoughts. Man. I guess I'm just hoping that the Sixers make the right moves going forward, meaning, getting the impactful players for that bench, and then Harden holding true to his word where he's going to, sign that short-term deal and free up that money for them to sign players. Because if that gets sketchy, that's really going to put this team in a bind where they're able to add some much needed help to that bench. But I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, most definitely. Listen, Joe, for me, I just want to make sure that everybody has a very safe and happy 4th of July this year.
That's right. And APP, be careful, buddy.
Yeah, listen, and we can just take for all those that are going to be listening back. We're just going to follow the advice of Jason Pierre-Paul and just remind you to have a blast on 4th of July, and just make sure that you're going in and making sure that you're doing everything you can to stay safe. But enjoy 4th of July. Enjoy your get-togethers. Joe, what's your go-to 4th of July food?
Oh man, being as though that I'm a retired chef, that list is quite long. But your usual hot dogs, hamburgers. I love making ribs.
Okay.
Slow cooked ribs. Do them on the grill and then bake them in the oven until they fall off the bone. Nice. Macaroni salad, potato salad. Probably some adult beverages. We're gonna have to throw them in. Maybe a few or a few dozen.
You got to go to adult beverage.
Go to adult beverage. I'm a simple guy, man. Probably just throw me a Yingling and then for my mixed drink, I'm going rum and Coke. That's just
Joe. You and I can hang out on that one.
What's in your cup, Don? What's in your cup?
I'm a rum and diet guy.
Hey,
if I gotta go mixed drink.
People made fun of me. They're like, "You're such a wimp drinking booze with diet soda." But it actually, and this is true. It's a true story. Yeah. It actually goes into your blood system faster.
Oh,
so you start feeling it quicker.
Let's go. Listen, I love the good burgers and dogs, right?
Yep. What's yours? What's yours?
Listen, I love a good burger, man.
Yep.
If you can, you don't buy the ones that are frozen, right? You get the meat, you mix it up.
Get the burger press, you get the fresh meat, a little seasoning on there. Oh
yeah,
yeah.
Just a little salt and pepper, throw it on the grill, man. That's
Little 80-20 mix.
You can't beat that stuff, man. So, just for everybody out there, go have fun on 4th of July, go to your parades, go do whatever. Go hang out with your family, stay safe, whatever you're doing. And when you get a chance, slide over to the link tree, go check out the sponsors, the Streaker Sports, La Terrain, Shocked Energy, Team Clicks. You got all your cool sportswear, your energy drinks, your sunglasses, all your good stuff. So, head over there, check it out. Joe, we forgot to mention the Philadelphia Stars are in the USFL championship. Who? What?
That's right. The Super Bowl. Nobody told me the Super Bowl was this Sunday.
it's the Super Bowl. Right? We're in the championship game of a league that doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know. I guess I'll probably just turn it on just to see what happens, but I don't know. I might also be watching the paint dry on my wall, so it's gonna be a toss up. But all I'm hoping for this weekend is for the Phillies to win on Friday, at least win Friday, because I'm going Friday. So please just show me a good game, because unfortunately I went with my son to the Father's Day game. They had him? I was in. So I'm sure you remember that. The streak. The streak. So I'll tell you what, if they lose on Friday, you might not see me at a Phillies game for a while, man.
That's great. All right. Well, listen, everybody, we're gonna head out. We'll catch you. Jason and I will be popping on Friday night to wrap up the hockey season. So, check back in with us on Friday. And then we got some exciting news. Be on the lookout for some social media stuff. We're going to have some exciting new segment we're going to start next week. So be on the lookout for some new football stuff. Peace out, Philly.